So as I mentioned, there's a lot more to this story at Tiffinday than simply this conventional financial model. In fact, this is not the reason why this company is financially viable. There's a whole bunch of other interlocking factors that are not picked up when you only look at the typical financial factors. And it starts with the purpose of this business. The founder of Tiffinday, Seema Pabari, has a very specific purpose, a very specific why that she is bringing to the table based on her own values and her own understanding of what's good, right and proper. So what she calls the Tiffinday philosophy is that she believes that the very act of revenue generation, whether it be as a government earning taxes, a corporation earning revenues, or even an individual earning a salary, is completely pointless unless it improves lives and communities. So Tiffinday's purpose at a larger level is to improve lives and communities, and in fact the environment as well, which is required to sustain those lives and communities. Now let me give you a few more facts about Tiffinday before I start exploring the rest of this business model that together creates a viable business. The first thing to note is that the recipes are plant-based, they're vegan recipes. And so part of the reason for that is the fact that if everybody in North America ate no meat or cheese for just one day every week, that would be the equivalent of saving 91 billion miles or removing 7.6 million cars from the road. So a huge impact environmentally by switching to plant-based food. And the next thing to recognize is that her employees are new immigrant mothers available to work while their children are in school. This includes the founder herself. Seema is a single mother and her son, and she wanted time to be able to take her son to school and pick him up at the end of the day. So this means that a lunchtime business makes a lot of sense for her because it's when she and her employees are normally available to work. The next thing is that the delivery of the tiffins is actually by electric vehicle. And that's not only, in fact, because it's more environmentally friendly, but also because it turns out that in Toronto, you can park an electric vehicle on the sidewalk outside the tall office buildings and not getting a parking ticket. If you were trying to do that with an internal combustion vehicle, you would actually get a parking ticket. So there's both an environmental and a practical reason for this. We mentioned that there's a shared resource being used here. She didn't have to invest the capital. It's a kitchen and a chef arranged with an existing vegan restaurant. And then the last things that she's committed to doing is maximizing the purchases from local sustainable certified farms. So these are farms that are not only organic, but they're also focused on local and worker welfare. And obviously she does that as far as possible given the climatic conditions in the winter in Toronto. The last thing is that she wants to demonstrate all these great things that she's doing, so she certified her company as a benefit corporation, managing at the time of this to score the minimum 80 out of 200 to be able to be certified. So how does this all work out when we start applying this to the Flourishing Business Canvas? So the first thing we have to recognize is we've got some additional goals that she has for this business, not simply being profitable. Being profitable is vital, but it's not the only goal that she has. So the first goal that she has is having time to be a mother. And this is not just for herself, but it's also for her employees. The next one, and this is obviously a social goal. The next one is improving lives and communities by building on her South Asian culture. So she wants to proactively encourage through the use of South Asian recipes to people who are not South Asian, sharing her culture and obviously building on the culture of her employees. The next goal is contributing to a healthy environment. She's very concerned about the environmental impact of her business, so she has an explicit goal around the environment. So we started to establish that in addition to the customers, we've got a number of other actors related to the immigrant community who are going to be involved in her business. So the first ecosystem actor that we want to talk about is the recent immigrant community, including herself and her son. Of course, lunchtime eaters, young single men, they come from a larger group of actors called eaters. That's all of us who need to eat food, which is a pretty big market. So she's got a fairly large market, but she's tackling right now, based on the current way she's marketing, young single men. So what are the needs of these ecosystem actors? So there's some fundamental human needs that these actors have. They need to be able to care for their children. They need nutritious food, and they need a healthy environment. So we want to record here that for Tiffinday, these are fundamental needs that she wants to use the business to work towards creating value around. So from this set of actors, we've obviously already identified the customers, but what other stakeholders are important? So one is the founder, Seema, and her son. They are stakeholders of this business. The business is co-creating value for them, not only the profitability, which is obviously where the salaries, Seema's salary will come from, but also it's co-creating value around meeting some of these other goals as well. So it's actually reinforcing Seema's overall life purpose and the purpose she set for the business. The next stakeholder is her employees. Again, the employees come from the recent immigrant community, and specifically these are new Canadian women with limited hours for work because they have responsibilities to drop off their kids at school and pick them up at the end of the day. And also these people very often find it very hard to get work because they've got no Canadian experience. So this is very much something to help them get integrated into the Canadian culture and Canadian economy. The next stakeholder is local farmers. So the food has to come locally as far as possible, so local farmers are a key stakeholder. So why do these actors choose to become stakeholders of this business? What attracts them to Tiffinday? Clearly for customers, we know it's convenience of ordering and delivery is the primary reason, the primary value co-creation. But what about for the founder? What about for the employees? What about the farmers? What are the sorts of things what sort of value is being co-created by Tiffinday that attracts them to be stakeholders? So the first one, both for the founder and for the employees, is time for family. This is a key value that's being co-created by this business for these stakeholders. The next, particularly for, again, the same two stakeholders, this business is enriching community, both the community because the employees now are having jobs and having a salary, which is obviously contributing to their families, but also because of the use of South Asian cultural artifacts like the recipes. Now, of course, convenience of ordering and delivery is only the primary reason why customers buy. They wouldn't buy again if it wasn't delicious food. So this is delicious, balanced, fresh, plant-based, boutique, high-quality meals based on South Asian family recipes. So, of course, this is a key reason why customers buy, but it's also a key reason why employees want to work here. Another key value that's been co-created for all of the stakeholders is that this is an environmentally sustainable business or is attempting to head in that direction by focusing on local, seasonal and organic food to the best of their ability. So these now are 5 value co-creations that together attract actors to become stakeholders of this business so that they can co-create that value with Tiffinday. So there's a couple of key partnerships that we need to talk about. So the first key partnership is a contract with the licensed kitchen provider. So without that contract, there's no access to the kitchen, there's no access to the chef, so that's really a very key partnership agreement. The next one is partnerships with the local farmers in order to get the sustainable sustainable food. So there's again a supply agreement here that's absolutely critical in order for the business to be able to operate. Another resource that we didn't add originally that we do need to talk about is this idea of the local food when it's in season and other organically grown plants out of season. So this is a critical resource, again, that's provided through that partnership. We also mentioned a moment ago that we have an electric vehicle to do the delivery, so obviously that's a critical resource to the business as well. Now, Seema has recognised in this business that she's dependent on certain biophysical stocks in order for her business to be able to run. So she's identified a few, and these are the ones that she thought were most important. So the first one is the iron and chromite that's required in order to make the stainless steel that goes into her tiffins. And another biophysical stock that's absolutely critical, of course, is the plants, the edible plants that she buys from the farmers, that are grown by the farmers that she buys in order to create the vegan food. So what other activities now become important in order to be able to co-create all of this value with all of these stakeholders? So a critical activity for Seema is that she likes to learn on an ongoing basis from her customers what they like, what they don't like, and that goes into improving the recipes over time. So there's an activity of customer feedback and recipe development that Seema undertakes in the business. Seema also thinks about what ecosystem services she's dependent on in order to be able to perform these activities on an ongoing basis. So as you can imagine, in food prep and in cleaning the tiffins, she's dependent on a lot of fresh water. So water cycling, the process in nature that creates that fresh water, is a critical ecosystem service that she's reliant on. Now, of course, this is vegan food, plant-based food, so she's also completely dependent on the process of photosynthesis to allow those plants to grow that she buys from the farmers. So what are the other benefits that this business brings? We've already talked about the financial benefits, but what are the social and environmental benefits that this business brings? So the first one is the number of hires of people with barriers to employment. So these are people who traditionally might find it very difficult to get employment, but in this case, because she trains them, because they already know the recipes, because they're part of the culture, she can easily hire people who traditionally might have a hard time getting employment. The other social benefit is that she actually measures the number of times that she and her employees manage to get home every day, or manage to be at home every day for both breakfast and dinner. So she is actually measuring whether or not she's meeting this goal of having time to be a mother. So we put this in the social area of the benefits box. So what about other costs? So first of all, she measures the carbon and chemical footprint of the business as it operates. So in this case, kilograms of carbon dioxide is something that she measures. Then, of course, she also has to buy the ingredients, the organic ingredients, and so she measures that obviously in terms of cost, but also she thinks about the weight of those, because that's an aspect of biophysical aspect. And last, she has a cost related to paying her employees. So this is the wages that she pays. Now she chooses again to help build community to pay above the minimum wage. So she's paying wages financially above the minimum wage level. So we've now explained in an integrated way how this business works, financially, socially and environmentally, and it's because of those three aspects working together that this business is actually viable. Notice that we've added a lot of detail to the canvas over the last few minutes, and hopefully you've got a pretty good understanding about how this business works now. It's pretty complex, and yet I've been able to tell a fairly short story to convey a huge amount of information about this business, its motivations, and how it actually works in practice.